And so, just so you know, we're going to try recording this
Okay.
so that people that weren't unable to make it can still get your presentation.
Sounds good.
So it's asking me to ask you for permission to record it.
Yeah. Yeah, I got that alert.
So I think they made you the host now, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Not sure. I see options for sharing my screen and everything else. I see all, yeah. So we're good to go.
Participants.
It's recording. You're in there twice for some reason.
Probably Joe. Probably Joe.
Is that Jill then? Or she is?
Hey, Jill, are you in as a host then? Can you record this?
You're on
It's recording. I already hit record.
Okay, as long as it's recording.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Kevin, whenever you're ready.
Sure.
Just so you know, I don't know if you can see anyone or everyone here,
Yeah,
but we have about 23 people in the room, so
excellent.
we're all anxiously waiting to go to Egypt.
Very good. So I guess the majority of this is, I guess, will be centered around the land tour options. What kind of package we've put together. And so I'm going to do a little screen share here, and we'll go through kind of an itinerary and then maybe some photos, a little bit about what you can see. It says host disabled screen sharing. So,
Hey, Joe, can you actually, do you want to make Kevin the host? Jill, you're logged in as a host.
Hold on. So it only gives me the option to make all participants, so I'll do that. Does that work now?
let's see. There we go. Okay. So let's go ahead and share. Here we go. So we're going to pull this guy up here. And this has got our kind of sample itinerary for a land tour, as far as we'll have to do some different scenarios if you're on the first trip, the second trip, when you're arriving in. But the general package of what we're looking at is you're going to end up starting with the Nile cruise. And so that Nile cruise kicks off from Luxor. It's a 4-night cruise, heads down to Aswan. Throughout that time, you'll be touring all of the temples, different, sites along the way, doing one of the Felucca boat tours. And then following that, you would then fly from Aswan up to Cairo, spend a couple days at the Steigenberger Pyramid Hotel, where you'll start with a tour of the pyramids. So that includes pyramids of Giza, Saqqara, and then the ancient Egypt capital of Memphis. The next day would be doing the Egyptian Civilization Museum, and then the Khan el-Khalili Market, which is kind of the Cairo bazaar. There's a bunch of shops, restaurants. And then at that point, you would either, if you're on the first week cruise, you could fly out back home. If you're doing the second week cruise, you would then go from Cairo to Hurghada to board the boat. So that being said, I'm going to go ahead and pull up some of these. So since we're starting with the Nile cruise, I'm going to kick that off with the boat itself. So, just do this here. So these are the rooms on board. The Nile cruise can either be twin or pushed together for a king cabin. You've got nice large windows, view as you're sailing down, cruising down the Nile. There's a sun deck on board, lots of space to lounge out. That's a pool in the back, so right there. And then a lot of lounge space. There is a bar on board. All the meals are served buffet style, huge variety of food that is both kind of local and Western cuisine, but largely a lot of local influence, but plenty of options. So it's a really nice boat, accommodates about 50 passengers is typically what you're looking at for the size on there. Here are some of the temples. So throughout your cruise, you'll go from Luxor to Aswan. You'll visit the Luxor Temple, Karnak Temple, Komombo. This is the Hatshepsut, and then some of the hieroglyphics that you see inside are just spectacular. Amazing how well preserved they are. And it's really interesting to see a lot of how Egypt actually was the one who influenced Greco-Roman architecture. So these are mummified crocodiles that you end up seeing throughout the tour. The actual tombs and temples on the Nile cruise don't have any mummies per se. Most of those have been moved to Cairo. And so that's where on the Civilization Museum, they have over 20 incredibly preserved, amazing mummies that you can go down and see. I won't have any photos of those because you're not allowed to take any, but it really is pretty amazing to see all of those. And so here's the inside of one of the tombs. This is the boat ride that you would end up taking, the Felucca boat ride. Do a nice little sail down the Nile. Yeah, so that is your Nile tour. Then we go to, after that, you would go from Aswan, fly up to Cairo. It's about an hour and a half flight or so. Just real quick to kind of get an idea of the rooms. Really nice accommodations, very spacious. And then the on site, they've got a restaurant, pool. There's little shops that you can go check out. And you've got the pyramids as your backdrop. So hard to beat the view. And then we've got the pyramids. So we'll start here. This would be the Saqqara pyramid, looking at it from the inside. So this is one of the few pyramids that you actually do get to go inside tour. That's the exterior view. And then once you walk through the that hallway, you're going to end up getting to this column that drops down. I mean, it's incredible how far down it actually is. Probably somewhere in the realm of 150 feet or so, 200 feet down, to where they put the tomb down there to help protect it from tomb raiders. And the Saqqara pyramids, much more so than pyramids of Giza, have kind of little tombs around the outside, smaller tombs. And inside of that, you have a lot of this hieroglyphics that are really well maintained. The pyramids of Giza are much more the grandeur, the size of the pyramids that are really impressive. You'll see some of the inside, but here's the pyramids of Giza. So you've got the view from, you know, the entrance where you can see them all across the way. There is the option to do a camel ride. We don't include that just as part of the package. I believe it's around $20-$30 to do about a 45-minute camel ride. And it's fun, you know, you get your picture with it. And this would be looking at inside. So it's also a separate ticket to enter the pyramids of Giza. This is something that can be somewhat difficult to walk down in there, because you'll see, this is the entrance. So it's fairly steep. Not necessarily for everybody. But once you get down in there, it opens up to that tomb inside. Yeah, so you're able to get in there. They technically tell you that you're not supposed to take photos inside, but the security guard there who's supposed to enforce that typically just accepts one Egyptian dollar or $2 Egyptian as payment, which is, you know, 30 cents, not even. We do offer the sound and light show as part of the Pyramid Day package. And so with that, you get to go to the pyramids at night. They're all lit up. It's a really spectacular sight. So you see the Sphinx, you see the pyramids, and then they kind of do this video presentation that's projected and narrated over, giving you the history of them and all the people who have come through Napoleon and, you know, everyone's armies through Cairo. But yeah, it's an amazing show to watch that. So that is the pyramids. And then we've got the museum, which here is a skeleton from an ancient Egyptian. As I said, they do have the mummies that are on display. Those you can't get photos of. But this one was a 35,000-year-old skeleton with its, you know, tools there. The Civilization Museum is really more about, let me get through here. It's more about the whole history of Egypt, not just ancient Egypt. So you get to see everything from the Coptic Christian times, the Muslims as they arrived and how that influenced the culture. You see the Nubian heritage, and then ancient Egypt's the kings and the pharaohs. Some of the golden jewelry that was just incredibly ornate stuff. This is a chariot that was designed in Egypt, and obviously as the Romans, Alexander the Great comes through, and all of this technology is then passed along to Europe. So it's really interesting museum. You can spend, a couple hours there. And then here we have this is the Khan el Khalili market, or the bazaar. And we call this Oriental Cairo by night. It's a really spectacular area that's all lit up by lights. So you can see they've got, the hookahs set out for sale. They have copper shops where you can go and buy, a copper pot, different decorative things to take home, Egyptian cotton, all kinds of little trinkets. That's where you would do your shopping to get more authentic Egyptian items. And then one of the really fun things is the dinner at Naguib Mahfouz restaurant, which is named after one of the most famous authors in Egypt. You go in there and they have this mixed grill or different entrees that you can have. And they have music playing, the decor, everything is just kind of get the full immersion, getting to sample all the different foods and everything. This would be looking outside at one of the mosques that's all lit up along the market. And I think that's all of the touring. So get that. Okay. And all right. So I guess I just want to find out if anybody has any questions about the tours, about anything in general, trip related. So everybody, it looks like everybody's
Maybe not specifically.
muted.
Can you hear me okay, Brian?
Maybe if we then you could also send the messages in through chat. Okay, so some general advice for traveling to Egypt. It is a very safe place to travel. I felt super comfortable there, so there really shouldn't be any concern on that. Most of the places you're going to travel to will have universal outlets, so it's always a good thing to take along an outlet converter. But many of the hotels, the Nile cruise, most of them do have universal outlets. English is widely spoken throughout the tourist areas. And I guess it's always good to try and get small bills. So when you go to the hotels or the different spots and you're exchanging your currency, most of the hotels will have an ATM where you can just exchange money there. But typically when you're giving gratuity to, say, a driver or just the guy who takes your photo at the pyramids, something like 20, 30 Egyptian is a fairly reasonable tip, but a lot of times you only get kind of hundreds, 50s, larger bills. Let's see, what else do we have?
Hey, Kevin, what about attire for women? I mean, you might not have noticed, but I think for women it might be a little different. Is it?
It's advised to dress modest. That doesn't mean that you can't, that you need to, have a headscarf on or anything. But yeah, I mean, it's really Cairo, the tourist spots, they are Egypt is very accustomed to Western tourists, European tourists, and it's a major part of their economy. So as far as culture goes, they are a bit more liberal, but again, still some level of modesty is suggested. Is it possible to do just the 2-day Cairo package after scuba scene? It would be, generally trying to put this all together as a group. You could go and do just the pyramids after, just Cairo after, but that would be separate. We would have to figure that out as a separate package. I will say from, everyone who does the tours, the Nile cruise is generally a highlight, even more so than the pyramids. I know it's hard to go to Egypt and think of not seeing the pyramids, but as far as how much things are preserved, how much you're going to get to see of ancient Egypt architecture, artifacts, and everything else, that the Nile cruise is really kind of the way to go. So if you were getting off week 1 from the cruise, you could just do the Nile and then fly out. But if you absolutely want to do Cairo, it's not out of the question that we couldn't try and get something together. For nonstop flights from Toronto, there's a lot of different flight options. I'm not sure if y'all are trying to book any kind of group airfare, Jody, or if
With all the
but-
variety of options, I don't think it's possible. Can you hear me?
yeah.
Okay.
So,
I mean,
I
you've got group 1, group 2, group 3. There's
There
not
is
really.
there's flights into Hurghada where you could fly straight into there from
Toronto.
to Hurghada.
Yeah. I did some research
Okay.
today. I did a little research today, and you can fly into Hurghada on the 5th, landing on the 6th.
Okay,
Stay at the Sinbad right there at the dock,
Right.
and get on board the 7th.
so that may be a select days only kind of flight.
Right, it's select days only, but it works if you fly on the
Yeah,
5th
so-
and land on the 6th, spend the night in
Right.
Sinbad, board on the 7th, and then afterwards transfer to Cairo. Do if you insist on doing just the pyramids, you would transfer to Cairo. If you do the Nile cruise, then you would go from the boat right to the Nile cruise, and then have flights from Aswan
Yeah,
back to Cairo and out on the way home.
okay, so
Because Cairo's nonstop.
so for the Sinbad hotel, you could book through us. It can also just be booked through like booking.com or direct through their website.
It is
It's a pretty
included in these
affordable hotel,
quotes.
but if you're looking to just fly in, fly out, that's one that it's simple enough. I would just to save you a little bit, advise to book, on your own.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the Sinbad goes, it is included in all of these quotes for coming and going.
I think can you hear me, Beth?
Yeah,
can.
yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So I think we're going to want a quote for some of the people that are going to do the first week and then just want to do the couple days in Cairo with the pyramids before they fly
Okay.
home. One of the questions we had here is there any kind of, for guys, any kind of dress code requirements on the boat or on any of the trips?
Clothing. That's it, pretty much. Just be clothed.
No naked.
Yeah,
Damn, I,
no naked, no. But no, otherwise, we're not doing, black tie dinner. They do an amazing kind of celebratory dinner toward the end of the week. All the meals on board are served buffet style, with the exception of dinner, which is plated. The plated dinner, they do a nice little appetizer. They have some salads out that are buffet style, and then they'll do an entree and dessert. There is both a regular chef and a pastry chef on board, and so they're both putting out just some phenomenal food. dietary requests, restrictions can all be handled. So that's not a problem. But yeah, attire on board, there's nothing, there's nothing on either the land tour or on the boat that would require anything special. Just that time of year, when I was there just this past October, November, it got a little warm, but not terrible. It was quite comfortable. At night, it drops down quite a bit, so you might want a light jacket. During the day, I do advise having some kind of lightweight, like a Columbia t-shirt or something just for sun protection. Make sure you're bringing a hat and sunblock. But yeah, that would be my advice as far as.
And when I look through the photos of people staying at the hotels, I don't see the women covered from head to toe. I see them wearing bikinis. I see them wearing sarongs around their bottoms. I mean, if your question was, what should you feel like you would be comfortable in out and about in Egypt at the resort, no different than the Bahamas. I mean, people are dressed like they would at any beachside resort. In Cairo, what Kevin was saying is, I don't think I would walk around, with something slit up to my hips and down to my navel as a female, but I would definitely feel comfortable walking around in sleeves and shorts or capris
I think,
or something
as
like
long
that.
as you're not wearing, super short shorts or anything,
Yeah.
low cut shirts, you're more than fine. Shorts, t-shirts. If anything,
Sure.
as I mentioned, I would suggest wearing lightweight long sleeve just for sun protection more than anything.
Yeah, definitely remember the sun is really hot there.
So one of the questions they had, Kevin,
Yeah,
transport going from Scuba Scene
mhm.
to the Nile
Luxor,
trip.
or-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that by bus or is that by plane?
It's by bus. So it's about a 3-hour bus ride. It is a large bus, air conditioned. Yeah, it's not exactly super scenic. You'll see quite a lot of sand, some rock. But yeah, if you got a book and or some photos to edit after your week on board, yeah, it's about a 3.5 hour, I would say, bus ride. Let's see, the COVID situation in Egypt is kind of tough to convey because they're not exactly widespread testing. So as far as when you see what their numbers are, what they're, it's tough to get an actual count. They are getting vaccinated at a pretty rapid rate. And masks are required at most establishments or museums, but it's tough to know where things will be come November.
When I look through these questions, I just wanted to address a few that we kind of might have skipped over. So general advice for traveling, we've touched on. Mike, we did talk about just doing Cairo after, and we'll send that to Jody to share with you for anybody that's interested in doing Cairo only after week 1. And to Yaroslav, your question was, can you skip the Nile cruise and fly just back to Toronto? Yes, you can do just the cruise and come straight back. That's not a problem.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically you're going to fly in, you're going to go to Hurghada, get on the boat, get off the boat. You can either fly out of Hurghada or you can transfer to Cairo and do that nonstop flight. Either way, you're going to end up going through Cairo on the way home. So, if you want to consider that. I found that it is Toronto, Egypt Air has phenomenal flights. Nonstop from Toronto to Egypt for the dates that you guys are going in economy was about 850 US right now.
Okay,
So
so we have to buy our own tickets, right?
plane tickets, I believe you'll have to talk to Jody about that, but they will not be included in our package.
Okay, okay, so
Okay.
I'll speak to Judge. Thank you.
Right, yes. And so onward, Tracy is asking if we can talk about the second week and if there are things to see in Hurghada. I'm gonna revert back
Yeah,
to
so
Kevin.
Hurghada does have a museum there, but if you've done like the Cairo Museum, it's really not going to compare. There's a lot of, I personally have not been there, but from what I've heard, there is some interesting things to see. There is there's a bunch of water parks. The Sinbad Hotel has a water park itself. There's an aquarium that you can go to. Hurghada is really much more of a beachy resort town that Europe largely flies there for vacations. They have tons of flights going in nonstop from
I would not
Germany
call,
and,
yeah, I would
uh,
not call Hurghada the epicenter of a cultural experience. I would call it a
Yeah.
beach town.
yeah.
Okay,
That's very similar to most of the Red Sea towns that you'll find, like the southern itineraries that we run, Port Galib or Marsa Alam, a beach town.
yeah.
So it's let's see.
The next
Water
question was,
temps
yeah.
on the dives. I would say about the coldest that I saw was somewhere in the realm of like 77, 78.
That's not bad.
No, it's really quite warm at that time of year still. Maybe you hit a thermocline as you're going deeper, trying to, see hammerheads or the thresher sharks. But,
Yeah.
yeah, it was pretty comfortable.
I mean, I hate to recommend a thickness of a wetsuit because we're all so different, Paul.
Yeah,
But based on that 75 to 79, maybe water temperature, I'm sure you can come up with something that you'd be comfortable with.
yeah, most of the time it's 77 to 80, 81.
Oh, okay.
I was
Even better.
wearing a rash guard the whole time.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's kind of personal preference.
Kevin, can you show Brian the boat? I'm assuming Brian is doing the second week only. So in order to show him what we're doing, can you show him scenario 3, which is land-based followed by the boat, to give him those options?
Basically, it's the same option. It just varies the
If you could pull it up on the screen, I'll be able to look at it too.
yeah. Give me 1 second.
Basically,
really,
anybody-
the major
yeah.
change is let's see, is this it? Okay, scenario 3.
3.
Yeah. Okay. So let's get back to share.
It's the same format. You're going to do the Nile cruise first, followed by the Cairo nights,
All right.
and
so here
then
we
go to the boat.
So with the second option, like she mentioned, you would fly into Cairo. You're then going to get your flight from Cairo to Luxor to board the boat on that Monday. So if you're arriving in on Sunday, we have a couple of hotels we can recommend right by the airport. But they're relatively, affordable hotels, nice places. You're gonna have an early morning flight out to make it down to Luxor to board the boat. And then you would do your
Monday through Friday. Mhm.
Monday through Friday Nile cruise, sightseeing all along the way, all the different temples and everything that I went over. At the end of your Nile cruise, you'll then be doing a transfer from Aswan back to Cairo, a flight Aswan back to Cairo. And then that's when you transfer over to do the Pyramid Hotel. Those 2 days of touring there. Check out of the hotel on Sunday, head to Hurghada to where you overnight in the hotel before boarding the boat the next day. So when that would be then going to that Sinbad hotel. We don't actually board typically until about 5 p.m. For scuba scene on Monday. So the Sinbad hotel has it's a whole giant resort essentially, but there's a bunch of restaurants, bars, pools, you know, a water park, all kinds of different things to check out. So you've got that whole day where you could just go leave your luggage at the front desk, hang out and relax while they're getting the boat prepped to welcome you aboard. And then at the end of your scuba scene trip, you could then fly from Hurghada either straight back on that nonstop or back to Cairo and then fly out from there.
Okay, so I'm trying to answer everybody's
Kevin?
questions.
Yeah,
And I already know the answer, but so one of the questions was about cancellation insurance. You
Uh-huh.
guys yourself don't offer that. You recommend like DiveAssure or something like that, right?
no, we don't self-insure, but DiveAssure is the plan that we recommend, especially now that DiveAssure, as of about a month ago, is now including traditional in their standard dive and travel plans, COVID protection that should you test positive before your trip, should you test positive while you're in country, need to quarantine, or if you need any COVID related medical expenses, all of that is now a standard as part of the DiveAssure package.
So just for the people that don't know what DiveAssure is, it's a competitor to Dan Insurance that offers very similar coverage for diving insurance as well. But the reason I switched over to DiveAssure, and what we'll do is we'll send you out a link so you can get quotes and stuff like that. It all goes by your age and basically how much you want to insure yourself for. Because if like there's different package levels you can pick. They also offer a liveaboard rider that you can get as well. But the reason I switched over is because Dan didn't cover any kind of COVID coverage at all, and DiveAssure does. Now, it's not the cheapest insurance. If you compare it to like Manulife around here or something, it's going to be quite a bit more, but it covers different stuff so that it's not comparable really. If you lose dive days, you get coverage for that. Because you're sick or because you're injured or because there's a malfunction with the boat or bad weather or something, you get money back. So something for you guys to think about, but they don't offer the coverage, and neither do I. I just recommend DiveAssure.
We've got the one question on why the difference in price. I'm assuming that's between the people for week
For
one,
what?
week two, and it just comes down to the fact that you're having to add extra transit versus just a transfer from a bus transfer from Luxor or from Hurghada to Luxor. You're having to do a flight from Cairo to Luxor, and then at the end of your trip, flying back to Cairo and then having to go down to Hurghada to get on scuba scene. There is, you know, when you start looking at a map of Egypt, you start to realize that how big it really is and how much ground you're covering on these itineraries. Where you do the Nile cruise is quite a bit further further south than Cairo, and Aswan is actually even further south. So so yeah, it just takes a lot more transit. Yes, so the flight from Cairo to Luxor would be included in that package.
Also, when you compare the two packages for people doing cruise one and then doing the Nile cruise and Cairo, they end up in Cairo afterwards, which is where they leave. And they're leaving on Sunday instead of Monday. So they're skipping a transfer, they're skipping a last night in a
Yeah.
hotel and all of that. So the difference in price is the fact that group one doing week one and then the land package ends up in the right place. Logistically, there's only so many ways to organize this. So you've got group one doing the Nile cruise, Cairo, back out of Cairo. And then you have the group two people flying in to Cairo, doing the Nile cruise, then going back to Cairo and then to Hurghada. So you've got a little more transfer information going on there. Logistically, that's about the best way to handle it. I mean, there are buses, but
It's
I mean,
a long
it's-
bus ride.
it's an 8-hour bus ride and an hour flight. So some of us have more time than money, and some of us have more money than time, and some of us have neither. So you guys, you know, you can decide if you would rather do the bus and shave maybe $200 off a trip, but waste a whole day. And I don't know that you want to do that. So that's a lot of bottles of beer. Yeah, it is. It is a lot of bottles of beer on the wall to sit on a bus for 8 hours. And honestly, I probably wouldn't mind it if it were an interesting drive, but like Kevin said, you're going to see a lot of sand. That's it. So the flight, to me, if I've only got 2 weeks there, I think I would much rather use my time seeing things than sitting on a bus seeing nothing. So that's why we did the flights. Anybody there doing weeks 1 and 2 and 3?
Yes.
All right. Okay. So I know you guys are in for the long haul. You'll be coming in on the 5th, landing on the 6th. You could probably go straight to Hurghada using the flights that I found on Egypt Air. Do week 1 and then follow the itinerary, which we have that set up for you as well. And it's the exact same itinerary. And that would be the Nile cruise, the 2 nights in Cairo, and then to Hurghada for a day of rest, poolside at the Sinbad, and then get back on the boat, because I think by then you'll need a little break. So we gave you a day off in Hurghada. And if you don't want to lay by the pool, you can go check out the museum that Kevin was just talking about, or a water park, or, you know, rent jet skis, do something. It's totally up to you. You can do as much or as little as you like while you're there. Any questions? Throw them at me.
Can you go over the process of getting a visa for Egypt?
Kevin?
Yeah, so there really isn't anything to do in advance. You're going to get your visa on arrival. When you land in Cairo, you go walk down the escalator, and before you get to all of the customs terminals to go get your passport stamped, there will be a section off to the right where, and this is in Cairo, where they have 2 different companies that you can buy your visa from. So you can pay by credit card, you can pay by cash, US dollar, euro, Canadian, whatever, they basically accept it all. So you buy your health visa there, or your visa entry, And then when you go through, they're going to stamp that inside your passport, give you your stamp, and off you go. If you are doing the tours where we're picking you up from the airport and taking you to your airport hotel, things like that, there will be somebody there to greet you typically. So that just depends on which package you're going with. But the same thing would apply if you're flying direct into Hurghada. You don't need to buy that visa or file for anything ahead of time. You get it on arrival. Just know that it is, I believe it's the $20 for that visa. So
Departure fee?
Is there a departure fee?
there is not. So
Currency use.
Question about currency, Kevin. Does it matter? US dollars probably?
US dollar would probably be the easiest, just as far as converting in the hotels. I'm not sure if their ATMs or the machines accept, a variety of different currencies. I know they accept US dollar or euro. So yeah, it's that would probably be my advice, is either take US dollar or have some euro to exchange. But you could do it at the airport. Typically the hotels are just as easy, if not easier, to get it exchanged there. And a lot of places will take, people will take foreign currency. So they were more
Credit
than
cards?
happy to accept US dollar. So that's another, just to keep.
Do they take credit cards there?
They do. Most places will accept credit card. American Express, as probably most of you know, is not widely accepted internationally. But yeah, Visa, MasterCard, no problem.
Okay. Did anybody want to talk about the actual scuba cruise and what you will see in Brothers and Daedalus? And
Yeah.
okay,
Did y'all get to watch the video? The official video that we had put together?
I think you should show it to him because that
It's well, the only reason it's a long video, it's 8 minutes, of
oh well maybe
video
not.
time. So, but if you haven't seen it, feel free to go on, check it out. That was all shot in a single week when I was there over Halloween, first week in November. So same kind of general time frame that you'll be traveling. So what you see as far as underwater shots is pretty well identical to the time frame that you'll be traveling. Just to go ahead and share screen here again. Here I've got a bunch of different photos of what you'll see. The thresher sharks, they are quite rare, but they're, Brothers is one of the better spots to see them. There's a nice little pinnacle that hangs right around, 30 meters or so, 35. So it is a lot of deep diving. Advanced certification is pretty much a requirement for diving here, because you're doing so many deep dives to go down and see the hammerheads, to go see the thresher sharks. Just the fact that it's more of a blue water, drift diving, and it's not ripping currents, but there are times where you may see, higher currents. So
Nitrox, right?
yeah, nitrox is available. We also can accommodate tech and rebreather with advance notice. This here, you've got, so on a given trip, for that kind of Brothers Daedalus Elphinstone itinerary, you have the chance to see the thresher sharks, silkies, oceanic white tips, hammerheads, gray reef, and white tip reef sharks. So there's a lot of different shark species that are possible. The oceanic white tips are super inquisitive, love to come by, check everybody out. Elka, who is one of our operators, she is the founder of Red Sea Sharks Trust. So she's one of the most world-renowned shark experts for Egyptian Red Sea. And she has a large database of sharks that she maintains to see which ones are coming back year after year, how many species are they seeing, what are their populations looking like. And throughout your trip, she's going to give lectures. These lectures include everything from how to handle yourself around sharks. What's the behavior that you should do for different species? So yeah, they're really interesting. This is actually a wreck that is right off one of the atolls. So it's the Numidia, and it's down deeper, about 90 feet or so. Has some amazing coral life growing on it. The macro that you can see there is really spectacular. The Spanish dancers, which are a giant nudibranch. I've got a photo of them later on. But so you've got the hammerheads, your puffers. That's Elphinstone is kind of going to be your one best spot to see turtles. They're pretty common there. The giant clams, Nemo. The health of the corals there was just really spectacular. And, you know, all the anthias, the bright colored, you know, little chromuses and everything that hover over the top. And you've just got these soft corals, the hard corals, that it's some really amazing topography. Some spots will have little kind of caverns or, you know, holes that tuck back in. So unique topography. There's your Spanish dancer. That's actually about a nudibranch that's, you know, 6-8 inches long. So there is your diving. And let's see, while I'm going to get the video playing, just muted.
I just put the link in the comments if you want to go to it.
But so this is, yeah, you can go check out the video. And
What's it doing? It's fast forwarding.
yeah, there we go.
Why is it doing that? It's fast forwarding. Where's
don't
the
know.
sound?
I put the sound,
Oh.
turned the sound off.
Oh, but the sound is the best part.
Well, I
Okay.
understand, but
I know, you can't. talk.
yeah.
Okay,
So
Go
yeah,
ahead,
either
let's
way,
watch
yeah,
you want to watch
if
it?
Beth
Does
shared it
everybody want to
there,
watch it?
you can go check out the video.
Do you want to check out the video now, or do you want to watch it on your own time? Hello? I don't know who's talking or who can hear me.
They say now.
Now, that's what I
Okay.
wanted to know.
Now
I had
it
a
is.
feeling because they were all messaging me for it. I'm like, okay, here you go.
All right, here we go. I'm Kevin Purdy, CEO of All Star Liveaboards, here in the Red Sea to announce our newest liveaboard, Scuba Scene.
Scuba Scene is a big boat. She is 43 meters long, 9 meters wide, and she is 4 different levels, 4 different decks.
Comparing Scuba Scene and what we offer on Scuba Scene with other liveaboards, well, we love the boat. She's beautiful. She's very nicely laid out. She's very, very stable. The safety standards are top notch.
The dive deck, you don't even know what to do with that much space. The camera facilities here on Scuba Scene are truly amazing. Everyone has plenty of space for charging their equipment, lots of space to set up your gear.
The boat is built to be seaworthy. When she was built, she was a C-class boat. So she had all the required features of the international cruiser. The engines are 2 powerful 1,400 horsepower each, 4 different generators to give an option or a possibility of alternating and managing issues. Above all of this, and plus it, she's got the comfort from the inside. So the cabins are very spacious and comfortable. At the bottom or the lowest level, she's got 8 cabins that can accommodate 16 guests. On the mid-level, we have 4 suites that can accommodate 8 guests. And on the top or the sun deck, we have 2 cabins that can accommodate 4 guests.
You know, it's just an incredibly spacious vessel, large cabins, tons of storage, everything you would want.
The crew that we brought in new was pretty much the 2 chefs that we have. And yeah, now we just have to try to hold on to them with everything we have because they're awesome.
We've worked for so long in the field of, liveaboards, and we've seen the importance of food. And our chef takes a lot of pride in that, even in his presentations and the way he serves his food. I think it's quite special.
Any guests on board Scuba Scene that may have special dietary requests, restrictions, allergies? Chefs are able to accommodate all of it.
The food is amazing. I mean, every day after every dive, we would walk into the salon and there would be like a gourmet banquet spread, fruit platters to just the presentation of the food itself, not just the delicious flavors. And there was local Egyptian food that was, served just for us so we can have that cultural experience even while aboard the boat and not on land. That was really cool.
The cook, Hani, just did an unbelievable job. We had like a full lamb last night. That was amazing. That took him 5 hours to cook, and he just big smile the whole time.
The cooks in the kitchen and the pastry chef that are on board are phenomenal. When I tell you that I didn't think that the food could get any better after our coursed meal, then you got to dessert, and then it was like your mind is blown all over again.
The Red Sea consistently delivers. There is always great stuff to see. Doesn't matter what time of year you come, there's always fantastic pelagic life, lovely reefs, pristine sea conditions.
This is my 31st trip to Egypt diving. I'm a very lucky person, I know that. I've also dived all over the world, in Asia and the Caribbean and in Australasia. It's Egypt, Red Sea that keeps bringing me back. The reefs that you see in the southern Red Sea are stunning.
I mean, we would roll off the boat into the blue and I was hit in the face with this beautiful reef covered in hard and soft corals. There are fish everywhere, darting in and out of coral heads. There's always something to see. And within 5 minutes of the dive, seeing a thresher shark just pass right over us into the blue. And seeing that for the first time, that species was really unique and something that I will never forget.
Yesterday, I consulted an oceanic weightlifter for the first time. Now, I didn't tell anybody here. I was nervous about that. So for the first 2 dives during the week, my hair was gone in 20 minutes because I thought I was going to get bitten by a bloody shark. But no, it was just amazing that yesterday, two oceanic weightlifts. And I actually managed to video it.
7 different shark species, and very different shark species. We had some pelagics, we had some reef sharks. There's a dive where a hammer hung out with us for quite a while. It started, sort of looked sideways with its, hammer head and just like staring up at us for a bit.
I had to describe my experience here on Scuba Scene in one word. It would be incredible.
Like, it's brilliant. It would be awesome. Bucket list ticked again.
Top notch. Scuba Scene is fabulous.
I don't know what to say. I've lost the words.
Once you come aboard Scuba Scene, you're immediately a member of the boat family, and everyone makes you so welcome.
The one thing for me, the memory for me, is obviously the people I met on board, And that comes for everything. Like, I'm not saying the next level board could be better or worse, but from my experience, everybody gelled. They nailed it. And everybody, like, friends for life. And surely that's what it's all about.
So Kevin, apparently there's a very important question everybody's asking me.
What's that?
Alcohol on Scuba Scene.
Yes, there is alcohol. There is beer and wine. And hard alcohol, you can bring your own. No problem with that. Stop by duty free. But beer, I want to say it was $3 a beer, and it's actually for the tall cans, 16 ounces. Wine is typically around $12 to $15 a bottle. It is all Egyptian wine, Egyptian beer. So the wine, they usually have a red, a white option. The beer is a local beer known as Sakara. And if they don't have Sakara, then it would be another local beer that's Stella, but not to be confused with Stella Artois. So yeah, there is alcohol available for purchase.
I highly recommend anybody coming through duty free, if you want vodka or rum or tequila or scotch at the end of the day, pick up a bottle at duty free and bring it on board. There's plenty of soda, juice.
Yeah, soda, juice is all included. I can tell you that the Irishman in that video decided that he wanted to buy shots of Jack Daniels for a couple of us when we got back to the marina in Hurghada, and it was $20 a shot for Jack Daniels.
BYOB.
Yeah.
What about on the Nile cruise?
So the Nile cruise, we do have an option to do an add-on for an all-inclusive package. The Nile cruise as is doesn't include sodas, it doesn't include juices. All of that is extra, but it's only, I want to say, like $50 for the entire trip. And that includes all inclusive, all coffee, juices, sodas, beer, wine, liquor, drinks. And then the other big savings that does for you is you can get water, bottled water to then take with you on your land tours versus having to buy them while you're out and about. So, I mean, to me, that's worth it to do that add-on.
Is that
Yeah, if
$50 a
anybody
day
is-
or a week?
Pardon me?
Per
Is
week.
that $50?
That's for $50 for the whole Nile cruise.
It's very worth it. I've done river cruises in Europe, and it's always worth it to add the drink package. Just same thing as like going on a cruise. You always add the drink package.
I
Unless
think
you
for
don't drink.
$50, most people will. So one of the guys here has a question. You know how on the Aquacat, there's a central computer that people can use? Do they have that on Scuba Scene?
They don't. There is no central computer. But yeah, they're, I'm sure if you're trying to just load photos or something like that, I would imagine somebody on board may have one. If you just brought a hard drive for storage, that could always work.
On Scuba Scene, do they take photos and videos and put it together for you in a package, sort of like Aquacat does?
No, so there's not a slideshow or a trip video put together. But if, as I mentioned, Elka, who is on board, if you get any photos during your trip of different shark species, anything like that, she's always wanting you to share those because it helps her increase her catalog of data, her species collected. And even more than that, if you end up submitting it and it's not one that she's already got on her website, or maybe she does have it, when you go to Red Sea Sharks Trust, her website, you can sponsor a shark. So it helps her foundation continue their research. And for an annual fee, you can, sponsor that shark. So
Someone
and then you
asked,
get to name it too. So
someone asked if there was internet abilities on board, and I want to say no.
there is internet on board when they are basically within range. On this particular itinerary, that pretty much means when you're at the dock that first night that you board, possibly some that next morning. And then beyond that, you wouldn't have internet again until you get back on that last full day on board. You start to head back to port, do some of the shallower sites, typically do about two dives or so that last day. At those times when you're closer to land, a lot of times they'll have internet connection. So
I think I've covered all the questions that have come up in chat. Anybody else have anything?
There was a couple questions about the depth. So you were saying that most of the dives are to around 30 meters. Is that just as deep as it is, or is that where you're going to be diving mostly? Or can you just stay shallow?
There'll be times where you may go deeper, depending on what your air blend is. You can go to your recreational limit, whatever you're certified for. The thresher sharks and the hammerheads are typically at deeper depths, so that's why you're dropping down in to go try and see those. The oceanic white tips are up at the surface. So it just varies by dive. One dive, we had already dove, I think this was when I was at Daedalus. We had already gone and dove all around Daedalus, and ultimately a group of us made the call that we wanted to hang out off of the reef closer to where the boats are, and we spent our entire dive just out in the blue because that's where the oceanic white tips come. They don't come right up along the reef. They're out in the blue further away, that they're scavengers, so they, you know, they're hanging out there. So we hung out, we saw a huge school of barracuda out there. And then we did get to see 2 oceanic white tips. But you don't necessarily have to drop down deeper if you don't want to. The reef is amazing from, you know, 20 meters all the way up to 5, where you'll find spectacular life. So.
Do they have guides in the water, and are they mandatory?
There are guides in the water. So on a full boat, if we have 26 people on board, typically that's going to be 3 separate dive groups that you'll gear up in phases, load onto the tenders. Group 1 will load up onto the tender, group 2 right behind them. There will be 1 guide that's going out there to back roll in. And you can follow along with that guide if you want, or you can go at your own pace. The 3rd group will then go and have a guide as well. And you're all kind of going along at the same time. So some of the spots for Brothers Daedalus Elphinstone can get fairly busy. If you've ever heard rumors about Red Sea and that particular itinerary, is there may be times where there's 20 liveaboards all diving that same little area. They do all talk to each other, time things out, and you know, space out the time that they're sending their divers in. But everyone on Scuba Scene and generally on the other boats, there's a tank wrap around the bottom of your tank that'll say Scuba Scene liveaboard on it. Other boats will have generally have their name painted on or taped on to the tank, so you can kind of recognize your fellow divers underwater. Most of the dives are tender dives for this itinerary, but on occasion, depending on what your positioning is tying up to the island or to the reef, you may be just diving straight off the boat. That just depends. So, do we have any other?
You know what time they start diving in the morning?
So your first dive will be quite early, just because, you know, trying to take advantage of daylight and spreading out all those divers. You're usually doing a light breakfast that may be sometime around 6 a.m. or so, and going for your first dive around 6:30 to 7, somewhere in that realm. Then you come back, have a full breakfast, little, you know, decompression time, go do your second dive, lunch, you know, and then third dive. Unfortunately, on the pelagic site, so the Brothers Daedalus Elphinstone, we're not able to do night dives there just because of currents, park restrictions. But when we are diving off of Hurghada or, you know, those spots, there may be the opportunity for, you know, 1 or 2 night dives at that point.
Do they have just 80s, or can you get hundreds?
You can get hundreds. It is a supplement, but there's the 60, the smaller 63 tanks, 80s and 100s. They can accommodate twin set side mount. And like I said, if you're tech diving, if you need a pony bottle, you know, all of those are available as options, maybe a rental charge, but yeah.
You know how much the supplement is, and do they need to know ahead of time?
They do need advance notice. It's all listed on our website under rental pricing. I don't know off the top of my head all the different.
Are we talking about the 10, are we talking about the 100 tanks rental?
Yes.
Okay, I believe it's $10 a day, but I am going to get you that answer in just a second. So keep going, and when I have the answer, I'll let you know, but I'm pretty sure.
That sounds about right. Or maybe a flat week option too, I think.
No. I remember looking at this and going, okay, there is definitely a fee for that.
A lot of people do tend to dive with 100 tanks just because you're going and doing the deeper dives and you know, wanting some extra bottom time, but
Hold on.
We're, when we arrive, I think, is it 5 o'clock that we get on the boat?
yes,
And if we arrive early, will they take our gear early?
they will. You can head on board, leave your luggage there, check out the dive deck. They are going to be getting the boat ready, but there's so just like Aquacat, you do have you have 2 private bathrooms on the dive deck or along the sides of the boat there that have a hot water shower as well. And then yeah, so that if you needed to drop your luggage off, use the restroom, you can certainly do so.
Everybody
Anybody
needs to
happen
have,
oh, go ahead.
everybody needs to have an SMB. That is required. So Jody, make sure you have enough in stock to make sure everybody has one.
No problem.
Okay. And then as far as the tanks go, nitrox is available. And the tanks, if you want a 100 CF tank, it's $57 for the week. And that's for the whole week. If you want a 100 liter tank or cubic foot, sorry, 15 liter.
And nitrox charge?
And the nitrox is how much, Kevin? Do you know?
It's
I want to say it's 90. Is that right?
it was 90, but with the new VAT that got,
Oh,
I
including
think
VAT.
it's 100 and maybe 100 even.
Yeah, nitrox is available, and I want to say it's right around $100 for the week. And if you're not nitrox certified, they can do the coursework for 160.
And so can Jody.
Yeah, Jody. Yeah, Jody should do that. Absolutely. Yeah. Is everybody on DIN or yoke? What are you on?
Most of us will be on yoke.
Okay, well, that's easy then. There are DIN adapters as well.
Either could be accommodated, so.
Right. And the other thing to remember is that everybody needs to be advanced open water. And if they're not, Jody can do it in the first day or so on the trip and get that accomplished so that everybody's ready to go the rest of the week. Okay.
Nitrox is 100, so.
It is 100.
Yeah.
That's what I thought with the VAT. Air conditioning in every cabin is available and you have your own climate controls.
Yep.
Definitely bring a lot of sunscreen. What other kind of questions do you have? Jody?
I think that's it for our guys in
Okay.
the restaurant here.
All right, here's one thing that I want to make sure, because everybody's into drones. Drones are illegal in Egypt. Do not bring it.
Yeah, we had, on the week I was there, a young Austrian guy had his taken and never got it back. He was told to pick it up on his way home, but of course it
Wasn't there.
went missing in that time. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
no drones. Yeah. Any other questions?
Thank you
Okay.
guys very much for taking the time out to talk to us tonight. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, so Jody, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna send you those PDFs of all of the land packages that are available for the first group, the second group, and the whole shebang group. And then you guys can share it with everybody, and keep in mind that the rates are subject to change. The thing is, this trip is not that far out, so we really need to lock in these land packages within the next 30 days, because flights are important. And you have a large group. So if a majority of you do the Nile cruise, that's a lot of rooms on one boat. Like you could basically take over a boat if everybody did them. I don't think everybody
50
will.
people on one boat.
Yeah, and I mean, you guys are that many. So we definitely need to hammer this out in the next couple of weeks and get everybody to decide what they want to do so that we can start lining up everything. Let everybody know that I need a PDF copy of their passport photo pages in order to book flights, hotels, and Nile cruises once we get to that point. And not a photo. I need a flat scanned copy. So make sure everybody can get that for me, okay? That'll make my life a lot easier, and I'll love you a lot more if you can make my life easier.
Okay, no problem. Thanks, Beth.
Okay, well, you guys have a great night. I'm gonna sign off.
Yep.
Can't
All
wait
right.
to see you all. Bye, guys.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So just to go over.